Hello viewers, welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a program that talks about breeding of terrorism and its impact on South Asian nations. Let's begin with the headlines first. Pakistan restores bank accounts of Hafiz Saeed and 4 JUD operatives after UNSC approval, say reports. Infiltration bid foiled at LOC. Pakistani senator talking about waging jihad in Kashmir in viral video. And intra-Afghan talks remain precarious amid constant bloodshed by Taliban. Pakistan, the epicenter of terrorism, is not shying away from openly channelizing the system of terror funding. Keeping all the guidelines and recommendations of Financial Action Task Force at bay, Islamabad has once again obliged to the demands of 2611 mastermind and Lashkar-e-Taiba chief Hafiz Saeed by restoring the bank accounts of Saeed and 4 of his associates. This step would further give boost to terror activities in South Asia, especially in Kashmir, which remain at the target of Pakistan's state-sponsored terrorism.
Paying no heed towards global concern on terrorism and terror financing, Pakistan has once again displayed its support to terrorism by formally reopening the bank accounts of Jamaat-ud-dawa and Lashkar Chief Hafiz Saeed and his associates. Despite several warnings issued to Pakistan by global terror financing watchdog Financial Action Task Force, Islamabad has not put sufficient curbs on terror funding. Neither has it even launched effective counter-terrorism measures. In fact, on contrary, the Pakistan Army has got formal permission from UN Security Council to reinstate the bank accounts of Hafiz Saeed and 4 other JUD operatives that include Abdul Salam Bhuttawi, Haji M. Ashraf, Yahya Mujahid and Zafar Iqbal. The Imran Khan government has also sought the permission for the bank accounts in the name of family allowance funds to the proscribed terrorists, but looking at past records, it is well understood that the access to finance is aimed at smoothing out the terror activities commanded by Hafiz Saeed, the chief of Lashkar-e-Taiba.
Pakistan government themselves and Imran Khan, and they have recommended that they should be given to the the money, a little bit money, so that they can run. But now the whole thing has been restored. It is because of the Pakistan and Imran Khan. It also shows how the United Nations Security Council, the highest body, is paralyzed and also are having a limited double face of these organizations. When Financial Action Task Force has extended there's this thing that Pakistan will remain the grey list and terror funding won't be there. But when it happens, it opens the door, in spite of the fact that no terror funding has stopped in Pakistan.
The puppet government of Pakistan has always been a pro-terrorist establishment. Its decisions and policies are framed for the welfare of terrorists who are living under the patronage of the Pakistani deep state and the federal government. In May this year, the Pakistan government released around 400 terrorists from prison, citing concerns related to the coronavirus pandemic. In 2019, the Pakistan government had already requested the UNSC to restore the bank accounts of the proscribed terrorists and now has got the formal permission to do so. The news related to several favors being done to terrorists in Pakistan keep coming in as the country uses the policy of terrorism as its alternate diplomacy.
It may be recalled that in October 2019, Pakistan had requested the UN Security Council Anti-Terror Committee to restore the bank account for that permission. And this year in the May, Pakistan has set free all the terrorist operatives because they wanted to decongest the prisons. It must be remembered that this head of JUD, he's got 23 FIRs against him for the terror financing. He's got US 10 million bounty against him. He's an enlisted terrorist. It's in fact very funny that Pakistan government, army, ISI, they continue to go on the track of terror as a strategy, proxy as a strategy for themselves. In fact, Pakistan is the epicenter and the center of gravity of the terrorists, not only in the global aspect, regional, but even we can see them around in this area. And Pakistan is a failed state, rogue state, and they're committing errors on the aspect of terror and proxy.
The move to restore the bank accounts of Saeed and other JUD terrorists came just days after Pakistan was retained in the grey list of FATF till October 2020. The decision to keep Pakistan in the grey list was taken at the Global Terror Financing Watchdog's third and final plenary held online because of the coronavirus. Islamabad's apparent inability to check terror funding to groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, among others, are the reasons that have sealed its fate in the grey list of FATF till October 2020.
Jamaat-ud-dawa, Masood Azhar, and all these people, they are Islamists. They have got very strong backing of Islamist society that Pakistan has converted itself into. There is huge pressure on the government from their side. Then there is a pressure from the military and the ISI to work forward and ensure that these accounts are unfrozen. These accounts were frozen when there was a lot of FATF pressure on Pakistani government, and they wanted to show that they are doing some work against the terror organization. But now it is not so. Now that pressure is off till next year, so they want to get these Islamists onto their side and revive their activities.
Informed sources suggest Pak's progress on its action plan would now be evaluated in the next FATF plenary meeting to be held in October 2020. At least till then, Pak will continue to be on the grey list, and even thereafter till February 2021, even if it completes all its action plan items by October 2020, as an on-site visit by FATF team would have to be held to confirm completion of action plan before it could get out of the grey list. Saeed-led JUD is the front organization for the Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is responsible for carrying out the 2008 Mumbai attack that killed 166 people, including 6 Americans. The US Department of the Treasury has designated Saeed as a specially designated global terrorist. He was listed under the UN Security Council Resolution 1267 in December 2008. His bank accounts were frozen by the Pakistani government, complying with the UNSC resolution.
Islamabad's all efforts to revive militancy in Kashmir is failing miserably as Indian security forces are proactively eliminating the terror group commanders along with their recruits, breaking the backbone of Pakistan-sponsored terrorism in Kashmir. This week, the forces neutralized over 10 terrorists in various sectors of Kashmir, giving befitting replies to those who are spewing hatred against India while sitting in Islamabad. A video of a Pakistani politician is doing rounds on social media where he is seen howling about waging jihad in Afghanistan and Kashmir with the support of Pakistani army. A report.
Indian Army, Paramilitary Central Reserve Police Force and Jammu and Kashmir Police are jointly carrying out series of operations to uproot the Pakistan-established network of terrorism from the Kashmir Valley. Continuing with the spate of encounters that have taken place in the valley recently, Indian Army neutralized at least 11 terrorists in 5 separate encounters in Kashmir this week. Indian security forces foiled an infiltration bid on July 11 by gunning down 2 terrorists whose movements were observed near the Pakistan's post in the Naugam sector of line of control in Jammu and Kashmir territory. Consistent infiltration attempts by Pakistan's side remains a serious matter of concern for India, as it is the root cause of all kinds of indoctrination and instability in the valley. Intel reports suggest that there are more than 300 terrorists in the terror launchpads of POK waiting to infiltrate into Kashmir.
Two terrorists who tried to get inside were very effectively neutralized by the counter-infiltration grid of the Indian Army, and there have been some recoveries also. It is reported that there are some 300 to 500 terrorists who are waiting to get infiltrated from the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir into Kashmir Valley to carry out terrorist operations during the summer.
After foiling an infiltration bid in Baramulla, the Indian Army, paramilitary CRPF and Jammu and Kashmir police laid several cordons in the Sopore area, Baramulla, Anantnag and Kulgam districts of Jammu and Kashmir territory. During the search operations, terrorists and security forces exchanged fire, leading to elimination of at least 9 terrorists in the encounters. 3 terrorists, including an IED expert from Jaish-e-Mohammed, were neutralized in the Kulgam encounter, and incriminating materials including arms and ammunition were recovered from the encounter sites.
आज मॉर्निंग में जब सर्च शुरू किया तो इनकाउंटर शुरू हुआ, जिसमें हमारे आर्मी के 3 जवान जख्मी हो गए और 3 टेररिस्ट मारे गए। 2 का अभी तक पहचान नहीं हुआ है। एक मिलिटेंट का पहचान हुआ जो बहुत फेमस था, जैश का कमांडर वलीद भाई, पाकिस्तान का है।
हिंदुस्तान की फ़ौज को, आर्मी को पूरी तरह से ऑपरेशनल फ्रीडम दिया गया है। जो इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज हैं बहुत अच्छा काम कर रही हैं, उनको फुल फ्रीडम है। तो ये सब कारण है कि ज़मीनी स्तर पे हमको प्रभाव दिखता है कि आतंकवादी संगठनों के जो लीडर्स हैं उनकी मौत होती है, उनको मार दिया जाता है, और एवरी सेकंड थर्ड डे हम सुनते हैं कि आतंकवादी मारे जा रहे हैं। देखिए, पूरी तरह से आतंक को ख़त्म करना मुझे लगता है तब तक संभव नहीं होगा जब तक पाकिस्तान की मौत नहीं होगी, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान अपने आदत से बाज नहीं आता है और वो आतंकवाद को एक्सपोर्ट करता है। वो अपने आतंकवाद को एक स्टेट पॉलिसी के रूप में मानता है कि हिंदुस्तान को तबाह करने के लिए इसको इस इंस्ट्रूमेंट का इस्तेमाल करो।
It is widely known that all infiltration attempts and terror activities in Kashmir is supported and sponsored by Pakistan's military. A military which has not won even a single war from the history of its formation uses terrorists as its frontline soldiers to unleash violence in Kashmir. Pakistani politicians, who too operate at the commands of Pakistani army, are being seen promoting terrorism based on the idea of jihad and an ill-conceived notion of independence of Kashmir. A video clip of Pakistani Senator Muhammad Ali Saif is going viral on Twitter, where he says that Pakistan should wage jihad in Afghanistan and Kashmir for its independence from India.
यार खुदा के लिए, खुदा और रसूल के लिए तारीख को उठा के देख लो, और तुम जंग लड़ने वाली कौम बनो तो तुम्हारी फौज जंग लड़ लेगी। अभी गोली चली नहीं होती कि तुम लोग मुजाहिरे शुरू कर देते हो। किसके खिलाफ तुम लोग उठे और तुमने बंदूक उठाई है? आओ आज कश्मीर में घुसो। किसने तुम्हें रोका हुआ है? किसने तुम्हें रोका हुआ है? जाओ कश्मीर का जहाद करो, आजाद करो। पाकिस्तान की फौज तुम्हारे पीछे है। अफगानिस्तान में जाके जहाद करो, पाकिस्तान की फौज तुम्हारे पीछे।
Currently, when the entire world is busy fighting COVID-19 pandemic, Pakistan is focusing on aiding and abating terrorism. Pakistan army generals who are at the helm of forming policies against India must realize at this point that when all of its plans are being foiled and terrorists are being killed, their strategies have proven to be counterproductive. Hence, it is in Islamabad's interest if they stop hatching anti-India plots and focus on the welfare of its own citizens.
Hopes for a breakthrough in push to end Afghanistan's grueling conflict appear to be slipping away as the country is reeling under constant bloodshed by Taliban. The surge in violence and contentious prisoner swap between the Afghan government and the Taliban has created a fresh stumbling block for the upcoming intra-Afghan talks. However, the United States is striving hard to embark on these negotiations and has already begun fulfilling its commitments to withdraw US troops from the war-torn nation. A report.
Taliban has not put a halt to an all-out offensive on the battleground. Dozens of Afghan security forces and civilians are being killed on a daily basis. Continuing with this bloody wave of violence, the Taliban fighters clashed with security forces following a major car bomb blast in a government compound in northern Afghanistan, killing at least 11 Afghan intelligence workers and wounding more than 60 others, including at least 43 civilians. Insurgents detonated a car bomb at the entrance of the provincial headquarters of Afghanistan's National Directorate of Security in Aibak, the capital of Samangan province. The attacks claimed by the Taliban group opened the way for fighters to enter the intelligence agency complex, where they battled the Afghan forces for hours. Zabihullah Mujahid, a Taliban spokesman, confirmed that the insurgent group was behind the bombing.
سه تن از مهاجمین که یکی از این مسئولیت محترمه داشته و دو تن از این داخل ریاست امنیت ملی میشن. تعداد 11 تن از کارمندا و افسرهای ریاست امنیت ملی در این حادثه شهید شدند و 63 تن از هموطنان ما که شامل 15 نفر کارمندای ریاست امنیت ملی میشه و 16 تن هم کارمندای ریاست شاروالی ایوک میشه و بقیه‌اش افراد ملکی هستند که زخم برداشتند.
Taliban also attacked security force checkpoints around the country overnight, killing 5 personnel in Balkh province, 7 in the northeastern province of Badakhshan, 14 in northern Kunduz, and 4 in the central province of Parwan. A recently released data by the National Security Council of Afghanistan reveals that more than 23 civilians were killed and 43 were wounded in the Taliban violence in just 1 week. Figures by the National Security Council also indicate that 16 provinces of the country have witnessed 284 attacks by the Taliban in the last 7 days. Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani in a statement condemned these attacks and called on the Taliban to stop fighting and killing Afghans, warning that escalating violence and war would damage progress in the peace process.
Their aim is somehow down the line the Americans should be made to understand that it is pointless fighting in Afghanistan. They will go away, and after they go away, the Taliban believe it will be child's play to get rid of the Afghan government. And this is the attitude that the Taliban has been adopting for a very long period of time. Let me tell you, all the observers who observe the Taliban in these talks say the Taliban have a tendency to pretend that the Afghan representatives are not there at all. They try to give the feeling that the Afghan government is a puppet government and they are the real powers of Afghanistan. And this is an attitude that they have maintained very well, and this is a psychological ploy which unfortunately the United States seems to be falling for.
The progress on the intra-Afghan talks for the mutual peace agreement has been at a standstill due to complications with a prisoner swap that was laid out as a precondition for negotiations. The American deal with the Taliban called for the release of up to 5,000 Taliban prisoners in return for 1,000 Afghan security forces held by the insurgents. However, Afghan authorities have refused to release 592 Taliban prisoners who are deemed dangerous and are accused of serious crimes. The Taliban has said that the group will not endorse the intra-Afghan talks unless the Afghan government releases its 5,000 prisoners from the jails.
This is a very low-risk strategy that the Taliban is playing, that you take up arms against the government, you kill government soldiers, if you get caught, you are taken prisoner of war, and after some time you negotiate, you get released, and again you start fighting. After 1 or 2 exchanges, it became clear to the Afghan government that this was a strategy that was not working at all. And that is why they are now reluctant to release Taliban prisoners. But the manner in which this entire debate has been structured, it basically has been structured to show that Ashraf Ghani is being rigid, that this is a reasonable request that he is not acceding to.
The US Defense Department announced that the US has closed 5 military bases and has reduced the size of its troops stationed in the region to 8,600 as part of the agreement with the Taliban in February. Zalmay Khalilzad, the special representative for Afghanistan reconciliation, informed in his tweet that the US has worked hard to carry out the first phase of its commitments under the agreement, including reducing forces and departing 5 bases. Although he condemned the Samangan attack, saying that it contradicts the insurgents' pledge and that Afghans continue to die in large numbers for no reason, but he noted that no Americans has lost her life in Taliban attacks. The remaining number of US troops might come to absolute zero in the coming months. However, both Kabul and Washington are unsure and uncomfortable over the question whether peace will definitely return to the war-torn country once the US army departs. And this constant bloodshed by the Taliban has once again deepened the growing feelings of disillusionment with the peace process and fears for the future of Afghanistan.
Moving on, Pakistan has today been given the infamous title of terror state owing to the fact that it breeds and harbors some of the most dreaded terrorists in the world. This fact was reiterated in a report by the US State Department that accused Pakistan of continuing to be a safe haven for regionally focused terrorist groups and allowing outfits including the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed to operate from its territory. A report.
Pakistan has been known for providing perennial support to dreaded terror organizations operating on its soil. Over the years, several reports and evidences have clearly shown that Pakistan provides financial, logistic, military support to terrorists to launch attacks in the whole world, especially India. Its ugly truth was recently exposed in a US State Department report that accused Pakistan of continuing to be a safe haven for regionally focused terrorist groups. In its annual country report on terrorism, the US State Department stated that Pakistan allowed groups targeting Afghanistan, including the Afghan Taliban and affiliated Haqqani network, as well as groups targeting India, including Lashkar-e-Taiba and its affiliated front organizations, and Jaish-e-Mohammed to operate from its territory. According to the report, Pakistan has failed to dismantle all terrorist organizations operating in the country. Accusing Pakistan of sheltering terror masterminds, the report further states that Pakistan did not take action against other known terrorists such as Jaish-e-Mohammed founder and UN-designated terrorist Masood Azhar and 2008 Mumbai attack project manager Sajid Mir, both of whom are believed to remain free in Pakistan.
The US report has simply stated what India has known for many decades. In Pakistan today, there are 3 separate types of terrorist groups which operate. One is the Afghan Taliban, which Pakistan nurtures and supports and uses as its strategic assets for employment in Afghanistan. The second are organizations which they have nurtured to be used against India, like the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Hizbullah Mujahideen and others. The leadership of these elements is in Pakistan. Their training and all other facilities are carried out in Pakistan, and it is the Pakistan Army which assists in the infiltration of these terrorist groups into India. The third category of terrorists in Pakistan is the Pakistan Taliban, or what they call the TTB, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. This is the only group which is fighting against the Pakistani establishment because they wish to establish a state based on Sharia.
The fact that Pakistan has forever been supportive to terrorists, despite several stern warnings from the international community, was very well exposed through a statement of Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan. Few weeks back, he described Al-Qaeda's slain leader Osama bin Laden as a shaheed or a martyr in the lower house of Pakistan's parliament. Such a reverential description by Khan of the hard-nosed terrorist, perhaps the most dangerous the world has seen, is a chilling reminder of the patronage which the international terrorists receive in Pakistan.
Prime Minister Imran Khan has called the late Al-Qaeda leader Bin Laden as a martyr. I mean, it's not a joke. It's in fact acceptance of the fact that Pakistan is the epicenter of terrorism. It's acceptance of the fact that Pakistan has all along been giving all the assistance required to Al-Qaeda. It is also another indicator that Imran Khan possibly has no room for using his own intelligence. He's under pressure from huge numbers of pressure groups.
Pakistan has drawn sharp criticism from several think tanks and experts across the world for its unabated role in facilitating terrorists. Commenting the US State Department report, European Foundation for South Asian Studies or EFSAS also slammed Pakistan for its fake narrative of acting against terrorism. It also stressed upon the fact that Pakistan's claim to have played a crucial role in the decimation of Al-Qaeda, whose top leader it itself had sheltered for years, is unfathomable. The Pakistani government's tall counter-terrorism claims are belied by the fact that the leadership of the Taliban, a United Nations designated terrorist organization, has been sheltering in Pakistan for 2 decades.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We will be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@nin.com. This is Shreya Savijay signing off on the behalf of entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.